KMOJ, Minneapolis, St. Paul, bringing unity to the community. 89.9 KMOJ, the People Station.
Welcome to Voices with hosts Rashida Fisher and Sam Simmons, sponsored by Normandale Community College. The views and opinions of this program are not necessarily those of the staff, management, and the board of directors of 89.9 KMOJ.
Thank you for tuning in to Voices. I am Rashida Fisher, your host this evening. My co-host Sam Simmons is out this week. Hello, 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 Twin Cities. Happy Friday. Hey, you. So this evening, I'm flying solo hosting, but I have a very special guest in the studios with me, Mr. JuJuan Davis. Mr. Davis is a native from Chicago, Illinois, and has made Minneapolis, Minnesota his home since the age of 14. He's attended high school at Washburn, yes, and went to college at University of Minnesota Duluth, which is an experience. And he's currently working towards a project called Africa Unites, building a bridge between Africans. And so that is specifically what we want to talk about tonight. We're talking about redefining Black identity and really connecting to our heritage as Africans. And so welcome, Mr. Davis.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So tell the listening audience a little bit more about yourself and why this topic is so important to you.
Well, actually it started in the year of 2001 when I was 19 years old, and I actually came across my history. And basically I was downtown Minneapolis at the food center, at the food court, and there was a gentleman by the name of Ali Shad. He actually he was talking to one of my friends, and he asked me a question, did I know my history, did I know where I came from or whatever, and that actually that the book that's on everybody's table that we read every day, some people that read every day, that our history was in there. And I was like, are you sure about that? And he actually started off with Deuteronomy chapter 28:68 concerning the slave ships and different things in that nature. So
you're talking about the Bible?
Yes.
Okay. And so one of the quotes that you sent me with your bio says, if the Bible isn't our history book, then what is?
Right.
Now, you're going to have many people wanting you to explain this, and I'm actually interested as well. Why do you see the Bible as history?
Well, when you like, for example, that passage right there, if you go to Deuteronomy 28:68, this was the first verse that he showed me concerning. He said, well, did you know that, our slavery, African American, us being brought here to America in the slave ships was actually documented in the book. And so I was confused when he told me the same thing. I'm like, that's impossible. Mm-hmm. So when he actually showed,
it's too long ago.
Right.
Well, the time periods are very different.
Mm-hmm. So when he showed me that's how I gravitated to this information. And so right there, actually Deuteronomy 28:68, it says, and the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again, and there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you or save you. So when he was breaking this information down to me, he was basically, the comparison concerning ancient Egypt and the Hebrews, the slaves, because I know a lot of people are familiar with that story. But then this was a future event. And actually, one of the ways how I connected it as well as some of the African tribes on the continent, because I'm like, well, if this is true, then, if I take the trail of the different tribes of the African Americans, then it should also exist within these communities.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I started taking the trail back, I started actually recognizing and seeing that from their accounts, from the different African accounts, that they have confirmed it. So I had to actually talk to the people, because I know it can be like, well, brother, that can, it can be interpreted many different ways. But
so you're not saying that it's purely, that it is a way to understand history, but many people say this is very much a religious text,
mm-hmm.
and it needs to be read and understood in that context. And what do you say to those that would say you can't, indeed the Bible explains a history,
mm-hmm.
and talks about a period in time, but it can't be dismissed as a spiritual text?
Oh, no, can't dismiss that. Yes, it's a lifestyle. It shows you concerning lifestyle, spirituality. Of course, it gives you different laws, different suggestions of how to have a more intimate relationship with the God of this book. So yeah, so you can't take away the spirituality,
and that's not your intention.
No.
Okay.
I'm trying.
I just want to clear up, because you're gonna have a whole people at you.
Right.
A whole lot of people if you don't clear that up.
No. So
quick.
that's no. Because I also read it as well for the spiritual discipline and guidance, and to have a deeper connection with the Creator as well. So no, I definitely no. You can't take that away. But one thing that you will see when you actually just read it for what it is, you'll see you had Israel, the 12 tribes of Jacob. Mm-hmm. Just for those who didn't know who Israel is, Jacob had 12 sons, and so the 12 sons is Issachar, Judah, Asher, Zebulun, Gad, Simeon, Levi, Naphtali, Dan, Reuben, Benjamin, and Joseph. So these 12 sons constitute the 12 tribes of Israel, because Jacob, that was the man, he had 12 sons, and his name was changed to Israel. So that's why we say the 12 tribes of Israel. It's the 12 tribes of Jacob, but because his name was changed to Israel, that's why we say the 12 tribes of Israel. So,
okay.
So they were actually a nation of people.
So this small bit of information
mm-hmm.
that you could have dismissed as insignificant
mm-hmm.
really propelled you and sent you on this journey to find yourself and to reclaim your identity,
mm-hmm.
or perhaps redefine your identity as a black man. Tell me, were there any other significant events that came your way that really influenced you and took you on this course?
Well, before I encountered the brother, I was always searching for my history. I always had a desire to know where I came from. That was one of my goals, to just crack the code, figure out who am I, where do I come from. And I know that, one thing that I did know, I know we came from the continent of Africa. So I'm like, okay, well, I know, that's why we're African Americans, because of course, when we came here on the slave ships, we did come from the continent of Africa. So I said, well, I know I'm African, I know that, but where, which tribe, which location? That was the question.
And what did you come up with?
Well, like I said, just and I'm not an expert on so I'm still a student.
You're the expert tonight.
I'm still a student, so I'm always a student. I love to learn. But what I came up with, it started in 70 AD. That's where so from 70 AD, from Israel to the continent of Africa, then from the continent of Africa, west coast of Africa, to the Americas and the islands. So that's how I kind of captured I kind of take it from there, and I started. So basically, I started from 70 AD, and I'm like, okay, well, can I work my way back to America, and then from America, can I work my way back to 70 AD?
Mm-hmm.
And so, from my understanding, 70 AD is when the southern Judah, because you had the 12 tribes, where they were split into two different kingdoms. The 10 tribes was to the north, which was called Israel, and the 2 tribes to the south, which was called Judah. And at that time, there was Roman occupation, and if I'm not mistaken, the Roman general Titus, he was the one who actually exiled the Israelites, kicked them out, and they were scattered amongst the different nations. But there was a group of the Israelites, they fled actually down to the continent of Africa. And for example, one community in Ethiopia, they call themselves the Falasha, or they're called Falasha. They like to refer to themselves as Beit Yisrael or Beit Israel. They actually know that they are the descendants of the ancient Israelites. And then once you move down to southern Africa, you have the Limba. They stated, hey, we got kicked out from Israel in 70 AD. Then and there's even a clan even in Somalia, which was shocking. There's the Yibir clan. They're currently practicing Muslims, but they do know that history. They do know that aspect. Well, some of the elders. There's an article on the internet. It's called "The Somali Hebrews See a Better Day," and that elder, he explains it. But then once you go, you have in Rwanda the Tutsi. You have there's a tribe in Uganda. There's a tribe in Sudan, the Mahdi, and now the main part was west coast of Africa, because.
So that's where most people understand where the linkage is from Africans in America, African Americans, and our connection to Africa due to the transatlantic slave trade.
Yes, and one of the main, just to point this out, one of the main is so once you go to West Africa, that's very profound information, because you have the Igbo Nigerians, you have the Yoruba Nigerians, you have the Ashanti of Ghana. I forgot the tribe in Cameroon, but I've actually talked to these people from the different, like some of the Igbos, the Yorubas, the Ashanti. I spoke to a sister from Cameroon, and they have actually confirmed that they have the connection back to ancient Israel, but we do as well, because of course a lot of the African Americans that was brought here, if you take an account of the DNA, you'll see that some of us have the Igbo, the Yoruba, some of these same tribes and connections. So that's when I knew. I was like, okay, maybe I need to take, there might be some accuracy to it, because the one thing I was thinking, if this was just isolated to America, then I'm like, okay, well, I don't know about that. But just the fact that you have these Africans that have been on the continent, some of these people haven't been here to America. There hasn't been any interaction. They have tried to keep their history and heritage. So that was profound, and that was assuring that when you speak to the different Africans, the elders in these different tribes that are listed, they actually confirm it.
So why is this important? Why? Okay, our listening audience is listening to this show, and they're perhaps wondering, why is it even important for me to know where in Africa I come from? I'm probably never going to go there. And how is that going to change the way that I look at myself, see myself, my experience in America? I live here. This is where I'm from. Okay.
Well, there's an aspect of the scripture in Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy chapter 28, it actually talks about how Israel, the nation, historically, ancient Israel first, you have to understand that ancient Israel, they made a covenant with the Creator on Mount Sinai. I believe a lot of people have heard of the story of Egypt, the Israelites. They was in ancient Egypt, and they were freed, and they crossed the waters, and they was in the wilderness. And so Moses went to the mountain, and he received the laws, and these people made a covenant with the Creator. And so he basically gave them an option. He said, you have the blessings and you have the curses. So he said that if you obey this contract, you could say contract, covenant, agreement, then here is your blessings. But if you disobey, if you break this contract, covenant, agreement, here is the consequences, the curses. And so what I have found, once you start looking at the list of some of the curses, if you look at some of the things that are stated there, and you look at the African American population, it matches up to a T.
So give us an example.
Okay, hold on 1 second.
Because some people might now, I'm just letting you know, some people might say right now, you going right with the white folk, and you are justifying slavery and things like that by using the Bible, which is exactly what those people did. So I want to hear this.
Okay, well, like I said again, like I said, it's not just me. I have a whole, the whole continent. Like I said, these different tribes. You can do the research yourself. Of course, you can talk to the different communities. And of course, like I said, don't take my word for anything. Of course, I would always advise for you to prove all things. Don't just let someone tell you anything. That's what I had to do. So, but one thing right here, it says that Deuteronomy 20, like I said, right now I'm trying to keep it in a historical context, not religious. The first thing was it says, and the Lord shall scatter thee amongst all people from one end of the earth even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods, neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. And again, 28:68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spoke unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again. And there, at this location, you shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. Now I know I was showing back in the day, someone took out $1, and they showed me. They said, "Well, hey, if you look on the dollar, what's on the back of the dollar? First you have the eagle, which what I was told represents Babylon, and then you have the pyramid, which represents Egypt." And it didn't state that we would go to that specific landmass, that location, Egypt, a place like Egypt, a place like bondage, captivity. And of course, if you look on the map, Egypt and Israel, you can walk, before the Suez Canal, you can walk. So you didn't need ships. It wasn't a far distance, So if you look at all, like, for example, here's another example right here. It states that the Lord shall bring thee and thy king, which thou shalt set over thee, into a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, and there shalt thou serve other gods, wood and stone. And then here's another one. It says, the Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. And one thing that was brought to my attention, when you look at the Western Hemisphere and the Eastern Hemisphere, Africa, of course, is on the other side of the world, and you have here America. And when it says, he brought to my attention, he was like, well, wow, it says, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand, from the end of the earth. So I'm like, well, hey, maybe it's a strong coincidence that here on this end of the earth there is
North America.
And when I look at this place, it represents, the eagle. That's the actual, icon of it. You have a Statue of Liberty, and so I'm like, well, these coincidences are coming. Like I said, hey, a person, they don't have to believe it, of course, but when I start looking at it, I'm like, man, this thing is kind of close. I'm just saying, it's very close. So, like I said, ships. There's another one as well.
Foreign tongues.
When we came here, of course, we didn't know English. We know it now, but of course, we spoke different languages and different dialects. So, I mean, like I said, you don't have to believe it, but
so these are consequences for not following an agreement, a covenant,
yes,
a contract.
But there's a solution as well.
Okay. Let's hear it.
Okay, 1 second. Well, first I would
Actually, let's backtrack.
Okay.
For those that are trying to follow along, what is the agreement? What did we not adhere to? What did we break?
Well, actually, you have what we know as the Bible, Old Testament, New Testament, but how it was organized back in those times. You had the Torah, or the first 5 books of Moses. You had the prophets, and you had the writings, and then you have the New Testament, which what I believe as well, because I believe in the Messiah as well, and that was called Brit HaKadashah, or renewed covenant, and that was a prophecy actually of Jeremiah 31:31. But anyway, what we broke was the laws, the statutes, and the commandments. So I know a lot of people, they view it religiously, but when you look at it, Moses, he was actually he was from the tribe of Levi, which was one of the 12 tribes of Israel. Like, for example, if you went up to Eritrea and you asked, where are you from? And they say, well, I'm from Eritrea. I'm from the tribe of Tigrinya, and my nation has 9 tribes. So in this situation, Israel, where are you from? It would go like this. Okay, I'm from Israel. I mean, here's an example. I'm from Israel. I'm from the tribe of Judah, which is one of the 12 tribes. So that's why I try to let it be known that Israel is a nation, not a religion. But they do have the spirituality is built in, because they have to, they pray, which is a communication to the Creator. They have a language. They have a land. They have clothing. I mean, it's like for example, Eritrea, they have a land, they have a language, they have clothing, they have
customs and rituals.
They have a culture, just like Israel as well. So that's why I would never deny the spirituality. You can't do that, But as well, when you just look at it, you can see that, okay, it always talks about the nation of Israel. And then, for example, like with the Deuteronomy 28:68, you can't put a religion on a ship. You can't. And there's another scripture that also talks about like yoke of iron. They'll have yoke of iron around their neck. They would be put on ships. They'll go to the other end of the earth, and they'll be sold as slave men and slave women. A nation, eagle. So I'm just thinking of all these things. When I put them together, for me personally, I can see the accuracy. And then I said, okay, well, let me also check on the continent. Let's see if there's any traces of this history on the continent, And I have found from the west to the south to the east to central. For example, we can go into this. Louis Farrakhan, I think it was June 26, 2010. He had he did something in Atlanta. And it was called "Who Are the Real Children of Israel?" So, and he said, the blacks in America, we are the real children of Israel. So now this information is not isolated to any religious background. Louis Farrakhan, he's a Muslim from the Nation of Islam. You even had, hold on, there's another example. You had President of Egypt, Gamal Abdel Nasser, in 1952. This is what he stated. Now, no offense. Now, let me give a disclaimer. Please note, with everything I share as a resource, I may not necessarily agree with everything or endorse some of the viewpoints, but I just share it because I believe it contains merited and valuable points. So I just want to, but this is what he said. So this is no offense intended. But the president of Egypt, Gamal Abdel Nasser, in 1952, this is what he told the Jews, the Ashkenazis that are in Israel today. Like I said, it's not me. I'm just, he said, you will never be able to live here in peace because you left here black and came back white. So that was like profound. Like, how is it? And from my understanding, if he's a Muslim, and just the fact that he would, bring something like that, I'm like, wow. Well, how did he know that? And he's the president of Egypt. And if we go back to Egypt, I'm like, hold on. Now in Egypt, in ancient Egypt, you had 2 melanated or black civilizations. That was black on black. You had black Egyptians and black Hebrews. But now today you have so this is like part 2. You have the same people, these Hebrews. But now, because if you even look in the Bible, you'll see that these people, they kept messing up, they kept breaking this contract. So now today, they're residing in North America, South America, Africa, Asia, Europe.
So this is the history lesson, and let's, for a moment, because we're approaching a break, let's bring this to present day in America and relevance to the people today. Okay. Why would it even be important to understand this history and who you are and where you come from? I have my ideas. What are yours? Well,
especially for those who they may be searching for, some people need some answers. I know when at my time when I was 19, I was searching, and I wanted to know, like, man, who am I? Where do I come from? And one thing about history is very important. And culture is very important, because to know who you are is to know where you come from. But to know where you come from is to know where you're going. So if you don't know who you are and if you don't know your legacy, you might be making the same mistakes. You don't have opportunity to learn from your history and make it better. So hopefully this can be something that's edifying, encouraging, for our people to move forward in a more positive direction.
I think of the politics of it, because there's lots of politics surrounding identity. Specifically, we know that race is a myth, and so all of those things are designed for power, for a power structure, for a caste system. And so if we look at my personal opinion, why it's important to know where you come from, the history of our migration and our greatness on the continent of Africa kind of changes your understanding of the experience in America. And oftentimes can be empowering, can provide a way of escaping all of the negativities that are associated with Black identity in America today. And we know that that's important because we often have recent immigrants to the United States from various parts of the world that come here and have this very poor perception of the African American and what it means to be African American, and Africans emulating all of the negative stereotypes, all of the media rise identity of being African American, and not really connecting with the other traditions that are so beautiful about our culture. And so fighting the political piece of it is important for me. Now, the history is important for understanding and for validating, but the information in and of itself is about giving people something tangible to choose to see themselves in a different way. So that's my spiel. Okay. Good. So it is about time for us to take a break. Do you have any last little bit of information? Where we diverted from was the solution. So how about we hold that until the other side of the break? Okay. All right. So you've been listening to Voices on 89.9 KMOJ, the People Station. We'll be right back.
Hey, Twin Cities, this is Walter Q. Bear Banks Jr. for Elamines Fish House, located in the heart of North Minneapolis. Elamines Fish House has been serving the community for over 20 years. Elamines has fish and chicken dinners with dessert made fresh daily. Elamines also serves spaghetti and seafood and a host of healthier menu items. Elamines Fish House, located at 2221 West Broadway in Minneapolis. For more information, 612-588-9622. That's 612-588-9622. And online at efishhouse.com. Elamines Fish House. One bite and you're hooked.
Ready to move forward with your educational and career goals? Normandale Community College provides a quality, affordable college experience, has a reputation with employers, and for transferring of credits to major four-year institutions. Discover how you can achieve your goals at Normandale. Financing is available. For more information, Antoinette Harris at 952-358-8207. That's 952-358-8207. Normandale Community College.
was nothing left of our building, just piles of bricks and concrete.
Small business owner Jonathan Harlan of Jackson, Tennessee.
But because we had a plan, our clients never knew the difference.
Whether it's a natural disaster or terrorist attack, every business needs an emergency plan. Prepare your business today by visiting www.ready.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and the Ad Council.
Dear Dad,
now it is possible to send an e-card to someone special in the military or a veteran for free.
I hurt my leg riding my bike.
Just log on to thankyouveterans.org.
Got you a gift for your birthday.
And write a personal message.
Except we can play catch with it.
Let someone you know how much you care. Visit thankyouveterans.org, a public service of Paralyzed Veterans of America.
From the vantage point, Mafatu saw 6 war canoes drawn up on the beach. But what held the boy's eyes in awful trance were the figures, the eaters of men, cannibals. Mafatu watched the strange scene, powerless to move. In that very instant, he heard a crashing in the undergrowth. 4 figures were tearing through the jungle. He turned and ran blindly down the trail, thinking only of his canoe. If only he could reach it before the savages overtook him. Explore new worlds. Find out what happens next by reading the book Call It Courage by Armstrong Spivey. For other great book ideas, visit literacy.gov. A message from the Library of Congress and the Ad Council.
Later, much later, we heard something. We didn't breathe for listening. Then footsteps on the back porch, creeping, then more confident. After all, nobody was home. A hand closed on the knob on the screen door to the kitchen and found it latched. We heard a little sawing sound as a file began to slide through the screen wire. Grandma reached down for something in her sewing basket. Through the darkness, I managed to notice Grandma's rocker was rocking and she wasn't in it. She was standing over me. "Keep just behind me," she whispered. I followed her across the room into the kitchen. Now we were by the door, and I heard the scuffle of heavy feet in there on the crinkly linoleum. Grandma turned back to me. Under my nose, she struck a wooden match with her thumbnail. She touched the match to something in her other hand. It sizzled. Then she leaned down and rolled it into the invisible kitchen. Explore new worlds. Find out what happens next by reading the book A Long Way from Chicago by Richard Peck. For other great book ideas, visit literacy.gov. A message from the Library of Congress.
I knew I was stuck at this kid's house the night. Those guys snuck up on me to try and pull the handheld bowl of warm water trick. Well, that was enough for me. I went downstairs in the basement, even though it was pitch black. I left my sleeping bag upstairs, and that was a mistake, because it was freezing. I think it was probably the longest night of my life. To read more about the sleepover, check out Diary of a Wimpy Kid, The Last Straw by Jeff Kinney. Explore new worlds and check out more cool books at your local library and visit read.gov. Brought to you by the Library of Congress.
Welcome back to Voices. I am Rashida Fisher, your host this evening. My co-host, Sam Simmons, is out this week. In the studios with us, we have Mr. JuJuan Davis. He lives in Minneapolis and is here discussing his voyage, his journey towards redefining Black identity for himself, and just giving us some history, why this is important for us to know, and how we can be enlightened about who we are as a people. We're going to open the phone lines. If you want to call in and participate in the conversation, the numbers to call are 612-377-3443 or 612-377-3456. So we left with the idea, we have a caller already. Welcome to Voices, your question or comment. actively avoidance of symbols of whiteness. And so if we look at, Mr. Davis, what you're going through or what you've gone through, I really do see this. And I see it in such a way that you are, you're doing your research. You have begun to internalize as well. So moving into the next stage, internalization of what it means to be black. But I caution this, or I guess I can see the flip side of it, that there are also individuals that would say, well, this is not what it really means to be African American. My experience in America is what shapes my identity, and to know, this history that is documented in the Bible really doesn't change me, because I am surrounded by images and symbols of blackness. What perhaps would you say to that? Because from my standpoint, those images, those symbols are not necessarily of our own. They are shaped, they are designed, and they are given to us by someone else.
Can I comment on that?
Please do.
Okay. I have some scriptures here. And like I said, actually, even beyond the scripture, if we just put the Bible and scriptures aside, if you know anyone that's from the Igbo tribe, if you know of these different African tribes that are listed, like the Ethiopia, the Falasha, the Lemba, please, if you can contact them or reach them, please interview them. Like I said, don't take my word from it, because I'm not Ethiopian, I'm not Nigerian, I'm not these different tribes. But yeah, if you, I would definitely encourage, go find some of these different people from these different tribes and ask them yourself, and see what they say. I've done it myself, because I said, well, we can't just go with books. We can't. Let's talk to the people. Let's go directly to the source, which is the people. So I have, that has been confirmed. But I just want to confirm something here, that it says Job chapter 30:30. It says, "My skin is black upon me, and my bones are burnt with heat." There's another one, Songs of Solomon, Song 1:5. "I am black, but comely, O ye daughters of Jerusalem, as the tents of Kedar." If you research the tents of Kedar, had jet black goat hair on it. And then it says, "Look not upon me, because I am black, because the sun had looked upon me. My mother's children were angry with me. They made me the keeper of the vineyards." And the last but not least, Songs of Solomon chapter 5 verse 11. "His head is as the most fine gold. His locks are bushy and black as a raven." And last but not least, the description of the Messiah. "His feet like unto fine brass, as they were burnt in a furnace, and his voice as the sound of many waters." So when you look, right there as well. So I would take into consideration that, that if you actually do the research, that the ancient Israelites were actually not Caucasian. They wasn't, they were actually black or African, or,
brown people,
or even as jet black as, the tents of Kedar, because if you burn something, or if the sun looks upon you, it gets darker, because the hue, of course, the hue, all human beings started off as one, but as we went to different locations, we got, farther away from the sun, we got lighter.
Welcome to Voices, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, I've been listening to you, to the brothers speaking about the history of African Americans, and I've been doing my own research on this topic and finding out where our heritage came from and our culture. And when you try to explain it to people, or you try to the so-called black American person, when you try to explain it to them, it's so hard to let them, this is where you came from. I just want to ask him a question as far as how does he explain it to some? Does he explain it to people the way he's explaining it on the radio right now, on where you came from, what your heritage was, your culture? Because when
Looks like we lost him. So how do you, I mean, when this topic comes up, you know, because I'm sure it comes up, you know, quite often in the circles that you run with, how does it come up, and how do you explain it to someone, perhaps someone that doesn't have the insight that you have about this history?
Well, one thing that I, you know, like I said, what I try to do, I try to actually reference back to the tangible tribes, and because I know just me and America, that's not, you know, I know that's not enough, you know, so that's why I encourage for those to speak to the different people from the different tribes on the continent. You even have some Caucasian people. You have some YouTube videos where you have some Caucasian people who are speaking out. They're recognizing, confirming. You have people from different religions and different nations. I don't think it's supposed to be isolated. This dialogue is, I personally believe it can be a dialogue in the, you know, everywhere, regardless your religious background, because like I said, it's history, because you do have history where you have some communities, some of our brothers and sisters, they may be of different faiths, but they still know that that's their history. Like you have some Muslims, they know that we are the children of Israel. You have some Christians, they know we are the children of Israel. You have some of those in Judaism, they know, you know, so it's a very universal knowledge. It's not.
And I want to come back to that, but we have a caller. Welcome to Voices. Your question or comment?
Yes. And I want to come back to that, but
caller? Oh. Welcome to Voices.
Oh, good afternoon. How you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
All right. I was just calling. I got a question, you know, for you guys. I was just wondering, do you guys know about the Arabic slave trade also too?
You know what? I have a little, not a lot, but I have a small bit.
Yeah, I was telling you too, you know, my brother. Go on and, you know, I'll give you a reference. Look up Dr. John Henry Clark on that reference about the Arabic slave trade.
He's very good, John Henry Clark. A wealth of information.
I know others who are good with that, but you know, like I said, I've been focusing on the transatlantic slave trade. But I've got a little information on it.
Okay.
Like I said, I'm still a student, so I'm still learning. But thank you.
Hello, caller. Welcome to Voices.
Hi. Yeah, I just wanted to say that you know, I'm aware of the covenant as well as the curses, and you know, to break the covenant, you got to get to know the Most High, which is Yahweh. You know, and that's what I've been studying with. And there's actually a verse in the Bible that says that God's original people, the original Israelites, will be brought to the north on boats. And who's the only people that was brought to the north on boats? I'm not exactly for sure what scripture it is, but you might know what I'm talking about. You know, we're the only race of people that's brought to the north on boats. It says that we'll be stripped of our identity and our original tongue. You know, African American people are the only ones that's going through that. You know, we have the highest AIDS rate, we have the highest abortions. You know, we have the highest violence within our community. It's all because of their curses. So if you want to get back, you know, to the Most High, to Yahweh, you know, that's the way to break it off.
Yeah, there's a scripture, 2 Chronicles 7:14. It said, "If my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek out my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land."
Welcome to Voices. You're on the air.
Hi. I just wanted to first applaud him for asking the question, who am I, where do I come from? Because I myself have done some research, and I agree with him. I do believe that a lot of people of color in all the Americas, North America, and the Caribbean, their ancestry does go back to Israel. But the real question that needs to be asked is, what does it matter? What is the significance of that?
Absolutely.
And I think that if you look at modern-day times and the situation that people of color are in all over the Americas and the Caribbean, there's a lot of disparity and, you know, tragic things that are happening to these people that have been happening for hundreds and hundreds of years. And how does that connect to ancient times? And I think I heard the sister ask earlier, you know, what was the promise that we didn't adhere to? And I want him to touch on that. I myself know a little bit about that, but I want him to give a little more clarity in regards to that, because once you figure out what the problem is, initially you can go to the root of the problem, which if we are, being cursed or having negative things happening to us as a result of a promise that we didn't keep, what is that promise? And one thing I've noticed about North America is that, European people have gone way beyond the call of duty when it comes to stripping people of color of their identity. So if you don't know who you are and you don't know that there's a problem, you don't know how to address that problem, and then you'll never get to what the solution is. So I want him to kind of touch on, the significance of knowing who you are so that you can know, oh, if I'm this person and there was a promise that I was supposed to keep, I didn't keep it, and the result of that is that I'm going through a curse, then the solution comes with knowing the root of the problem and who you are. And I don't think it's a coincidence that they don't want us to know who we are. So if he could touch on that. But thank you again for everything that you guys are talking about and shedding light on it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to Voices.
How you doing? I actually want to touch bases on what the sister just got through saying. There's a lot of us, I noticed, gladly I noticed that there's a lot of us searching for information as far as our history and what we come from. I just want to, reiterate on, somebody just asked me, a youngin just asked me, what can we do with this information, and, how does this benefit us now? And, just the knowing of your history can help us in our day-to-day lives, living, under these stereotypes, these conditions that we're in. Knowing the truth can help us, moment at a time, day by day, can help us, reposition ourselves as African Americans. So for the people out there and those of us who really want to know, what this can do for us, this can actually re-strengthen us. We have to know the truth. And like she just got through, posing the question, what was the promise broken? I think that is some information that's really important, for myself and the rest of us to know. Because then that way, like she just said, we can go back and we can start the process of correcting that broken promise, because it's so important. Right now, we're in a position where we have to find out, our history, because nobody's going to tell us. And, the white people now, they don't really know too much history, themselves. They've been brainwashed as well.
Absolutely.
So we will strengthen ourselves, and that way we can reposition ourselves. And a lot of them, they depend on us to lead. This closeness to God explains our ability to be resilient up under these pressures. This closeness to God could just re-energize just one person's life, if not all of us. Because a lot of us here, we just think about what we see today, the rap music, this and that. We have knowledge of the boats and the slave trade, but we don't have knowledge of why this happened and what happened and the promise that was broken. So I think it's a brother, which I'm very proud of, that he's getting this information and he's studying. And I'm also very proud of that it's a lot of us out here. When this guy came on the radio today, a lot of us, we pulled over, or we turned the radio up, or we kind of stopped what we're doing, because we're all really wanting to know what really happened. And the world is pretty much waiting for our leadership. If you look around, there's one of us somewhere taking leadership, from the presidency to the Olympics to just everyday mom and dad struggles, just everyday struggles to get back where we know somewhere in our heart that we are more important than what we're being told. And so, again, I just wanted to reiterate, what was the promise that was broken? And I'll sign off. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome to Voices.
Oh, yeah, how you doing? I was just listening, and I called in earlier, and I heard one of the brothers call in and say that what's the solution to the whole situation on the transatlantic slave trade, and the solution is, it's an individual thing. You got to just keep the commitments on your own individual self. If somebody asks you a question, the biblical aspect of it, you have to answer it, and you just go from there. You start off with yourself. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And you see like a lot of stuff that the world's going through right now. that the way the world is right now, it's all because of basically sin. That's the way the world is right now. You know what I mean? And when the Most High Hamashiach and Mahahelakim, you know what I mean? You just gotta do the commandments on your own aspect as you as an individual, and then people are gonna follow you, and some people won't. Some people won't understand you. Some people will do their own thing. You know what I mean? And that's what I have to say.
Thank you, caller. So many people want to know, what was the covenant that was broken? So please, let's answer that question for our listening audience.
All right. If you start at Deuteronomy chapter 28, and this is what he says, starting in verse 1. It says, it shall happen if you shall listen diligently to the voice of Yah, your Elohim, to observe to do all his commandments, which I command you this day, that Yah, your Elohim, will set you on high above all the nations of the earth. And all these blessings shall come on you and overtake you, if you shall listen to the voice of Yah, your Elohim. You shall be blessed in the city. You shall be blessed in the field. You shall be blessed in the fruit of your body, the fruit of the ground, the fruit of your animals. So, you know, it goes on there. But here is, here's the other side of it. And then, so 15, if you go down to Deuteronomy 15, it says, but it shall come to pass, if you will listen to the voice of Yah, your Elohim, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command you this day, these curses shall come on you and overtake you. You shall be cursed in the city, you know, cursed in the field. And, sorry, excuse me. You shall be cursed in the city, cursed in the field. He will send curses on you, confusion, rebuke, and all that you put your hand to do until you are destroyed, until you perish quickly because of the evil of your doing, until you perish quickly because of the evil of your doing. But you have forsaken me. So basically, the first couple of verses is telling you, if you follow these laws and commandments that are written here, Torah, then you will be blessed. But if you actually disobey the Torah, the commandments, and you'll be cursed. So that's why he told Moses told the people, I set before you this day the blessings and the curses, life and death. But he said, choose life. I would suggest you choose life. So everyone has an option, but you know, the option that we took back in those days was the latter, to disobey. And that's why when you read, like I said, you can read the whole chapter Deuteronomy 28, the whole chapter Leviticus 26, and like I said, you can also not just the Bible. I don't want to just have that as a source, but you can talk to the people as well. Ask them, you know, like for example, Ashanti. Ashan is actually in the Bible. It's in mistaken Jeremiah. I don't know exactly at this moment, but Ashan was a city in southern Judah. And if you talk to the Ashanti people, they actually will let you know that, hey, we were, and if I'm not mistaken, Ashan means fire or burn or something like that. And in 70 AD, the Ashanti people were exiled from Israel to, of course, now they're in Africa. And some of the Ashantis, like to Jamaica, some Ashantis actually went to Jamaica as well. And then, of course, some of us came here. So we are a composition of different African tribes. Me, for example, I did my DNA test and I found out I'm from Madagascar, and 4.7% of the slaves that was brought here are from Madagascar, Mozambique. And even if you look at ancient history, there's a book called From Babylon to Timbuktu, the Malagasy or the Madagascar Israelite connection. One good book, I just want to say, Hebrewism of West Africa, a 400-page book, and it really goes into the West African history. But one website I would suggest, just so you can get more informed, would be www.hebrewisraelites.org. So that can be it's a good site for you to go do the research. And if you want to send me, if you want to send me some questions or whatever, you can. My email is servantofyah2002@yahoo.com, and you can catch me on Facebook at JuJuan Davis. Again, that's SERV as in Victor ANTOFYAH 2002@yahoo.com. So if you have any questions, we can go further, because it's hard to do justice in an hour.
We've just barely scratched the surface.
Yes.
So, I really want to emphasize the point that even if you get kind of turned off by the references to the Bible and the scriptures, it is very important to do your own research. The Bible is one historical book that chronicles history where you can get some of this information, but there are many texts that you can get this information from that perhaps will support you. I will encourage you absolutely to do your own research and really emphasize the importance of knowing where you come from. And I will leave you with the idea that knowing a history beyond the transatlantic slave trade is really about being grounded in something more meaningful and more powerful than being a captive of something else. The covenant is about being connected with a higher power, and so some people will call that God, some people will call it him, her by another name, but it is about being connected and about following general spiritual principles, about being kind to one another, which our experience in the United States has definitely caused some rifts in our ability to do that. And we can reference lots of other things like Willie Lynch, where that divide has been purposefully designed to keep us from being united. So we are nearing the end of our night tonight, our show. I want to thank Mr. Davis for being brave enough to share his experience with the listening audience. Thank you to all of our callers for calling in and participating. I want you to remember to tune in to our weekend public affairs shows, Senior Perspectives at 8 a.m. with host Brother Milford Johnson, and African Roots Connections at 9 a.m. with host Charles Dennis. Check us out online, www.kmojfm.com, and on Facebook, Facebook.com/voices. Remember, not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. That's James Baldwin. We'll be back next week.
Thank you for listening to Voices, hosted by Rashida Fisher and Sam Simmons, and sponsored by Normandale Community College. Tune in to Voices next week at 6 p.m. on 89.9 KMOJ.